Hey there, I'm Chris Kroll, editor-in-chief of Solar Builder magazine. Time is money, but so are the errors that result from working too fast. Today on The Pitch, we're chatting with Kamal Shah, CEO of SiteCapture, about how solar contractors can leverage technology to achieve efficient field operations without sacrificing quality. Hey, Kamal, thanks for taking the time today.
Chris, thanks for having me. Excited to have this conversation.
Before we get into the nuances of SiteCapture itself, I was hoping you could give us that quick overview of SiteCapture and the markets you serve.
Yeah, sure. So SiteCapture, we're a software company. We have mobile apps and a SaaS platform for managing field operations. So you can think of field operations as jobs being done out on job sites for the construction, property management, and of course, the solar industry. Our product's been used by thousands of companies on millions of jobs over the years. On the solar side, which has actually become our largest market over the last couple of years, we have a lot of large, well-known companies like Trinity Solar, Omnidian, Blue Raven, as well as lots and lots of medium and smaller regional installers.
You know, I did just wonder that how much of the business now was solar compared to the other verticals you're in. So it's become number one.
Yeah, it's been great. We've kind of been able to grow with solar as solar's grown. So that's been really cool to see over the last 7-8 years that we've been in the industry.
So as a solar installer, you know, I'm going to use SiteCapture. Can you kind of just quickly kind of walk me through what am I actually doing?
So, you know, as I mentioned, we're a software platform. So we've got a web application that people in the office are using. You know, what they can do is every time that there's a site survey that needs to be assigned or done, they can create that. They assign it to somebody, or if it's a system completion report that needs to be done, they assign it to one of their installers that's going to be on site. The installers all have the SiteCapture mobile app on their phone. Everyone who's on the crew that's on the job site. And when they open up their phone, they'll see the list of work that they need to do for a given day. They can click on it. They can see all the information they need. And then they're really just using the app to go through and step by step capture all the information that they need. So we've got what we call smart forms or templates that really guide the user out in the field, the crews out in the field, on what they need to do and what information they need to capture and what photos they need to capture. Show them example photos, give them instructions, and make sure that they can do all of that stuff the very first time. The cool thing about those forms and templates that we have is that customers can modify them themselves really easily. So it's kind of a drag and drop editor. So if they realize that they want to get a little more clarity in a certain area or gather some more information, they can just quickly go and make some changes to that form and that template. And the next time they create one of those types of work, then the person in the field has those questions to answer as well. And those photos they're sort of directed to take those photos as well. So it's everything from the initial site survey. That might be a pre-sale site survey where they're just meeting with a homeowner and taking photos of the house and gathering the information that's needed. It could be a post-sale site survey where they need to gather a lot more information, detailed information and photos that drive and go into the design verification and the generation of plan sets and proposals. When an installation's happening, it's tracking all the steps of it and documenting the completion of each step of the process. And that documentation is used for it could be done for quality assurance purposes, where someone in the office can be reviewing that and making sure everything was done correctly. Once the solar installation's installed, operations and maintenance companies can also use us for managing their work orders for jobs they need to do on the O&M side.
It's like a long-term file for that job pre-installation and post-installation.
Yeah, so they can track the entire project from sort of initial inception, site survey, all the way through to O&M, and maintain a history of all that in the SiteCapture application as well.
And so today we're talking about efficient field operations, and I think it would help to define the term by kind of explaining what's inefficient, right? So what is an inefficient field operations? Like, what does that look like?
So I think when we're talking about inefficiencies, really what we're talking about is the amount of time that companies and teams spend to sell and install the solar, not so much on the thing. And when I think about inefficient field operations, it's about like all that extra time that gets spent doing other things other than actually selling or getting the panels on the roof and getting things connected up. So that's kind of the starting point, right? That's where inefficiencies come. And the more of that other stuff you're doing, that's where it costs money, it costs time, and it's really inefficient. One of the big topics or one of the big things that solar installers need to do is really gather this kind of photo documentation and requiring all the stuff they need to do during a site survey, or when they're gathering all the information for a proposal or a plan set or a job closeout to document the entire system, stuff they need to submit to financing. There's just lots of extra work that's required, and that can be very inefficient.
It's weird because, like, Photos, it would seem to me, are almost an easy area of efficiency today because everyone has a phone, right? You just take photos when you're on site, when you're there, and then you can, maybe just text them to someone who needs them, or it's almost like photos are not part of everyday life now. So what needs to be improved or added to the equation for solar installers to improve the photo aspect of things?
It's a great question. I mean, there's obviously benefits of everybody having a camera and a really good camera in their pocket on their phone, but it also it's sort of a blessing and a curse in that, someone can just go in and easily take 400, 500 photos of all sorts of stuff and just submit it and have somebody else have to rummage through them all and figure out the right ones and whether all the right ones were taken. So a unique thing about the solar industry is, there are very specific requirements for this kind of documentation and photo documentation and all the various steps along the project. So, really for solar installers to be successful or be able to do this efficiently, you need to make sure their crews, know exactly which photos are required for every step of the process. So what photos are required during a site survey to allow design verification or allow a proposal or plan set to be put together and make sure those photos are there. That's really the key thing, to make sure every step of the process. Or for the financing is another great example, like you mentioned, is very specific requirements. So making sure that the right photos are captured every time, all the right photos are captured every time. That's really where you need something more than just a camera. And that's where SiteCapture comes in. It's really an app that ensures you get complete, accurate, and consistent job site documentation every stage of the project.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you brought that up. And that's the part I want to dig into, especially with TPO financing really on the rise again. Photo documentation is super important in general, but also really for those jobs. I guess I want to know, how SiteCapture helps, but are there integrations that help avoid issues with the back and forth between contractors and financiers?
Yeah, I mean, this is an area we're really excited about. As you said, with TPO financing on the rise, it's a big area and it's a massive pain point for installers submitting that milestone documentation. And it's critical because they want to get it, they want to get accepted, and they want to get their money. So it's a really important part of the puzzle. And we're in a position now where we're actually partnering with many of the leading solar finance companies to solve this problem. I think there's really two parts to it. One is when somebody's on the job site, making sure they're capturing all the photos that are required by the finance company the first time. So what is needed to require that? And then the second part of it is how to get them to the finance company. And we're trying to solve both those problems. So SiteCapture really actually helps already today, helps solve the first one. Companies can set up their what we call templates or forms with rules and requirements that actually guide the installer through to make sure they take all the right photos and all the right photos are captured, and they can't mark it closed or complete until they've got all those photos. So that's step one. So that ensures that they can do it the first time, not have to do another truck roll to send somebody back to get one missing photo because the finance company rejected it. And then the second piece is how do you get it to the solar financer? And that's where the integrations you're talking about come through, where we're building these integrations. We're really, with a single click, they can submit all of those photos, that photo package and all that information the finance company needs directly to the finance company's platform. One of the partners we're working with, the first partners, is LightReach. And, we've seen really already incredible success in just a few months, just in terms of reducing those number of rejections and the shortening of that timeline from the time a milestone is complete to when that milestone report is done, approved, and financing gets released.
So from what you said right there, is there a way you can quantify that? Like what you've seen maybe from an inefficient installer versus one that's now kind of using SiteCapture plugged in with a LightReach, and how quickly it goes from point A to B?
Yeah, it's still early, so we're still got smaller data sets, and but we are really taking a data approach of analyzing this. But we saw our initial customer kind of almost on day one have a 20% improvement, in efficiency right out of the gate. In other cases, we've had customers that report us just using SiteCapture, even without the integration, just being able to have those rules and ensure that they're getting the right photos, reduce that rejection rate by up to 80%.
Oh.
So it's really incredible numbers in terms of that piece of it. And it also illustrates how much of a pain point it must have been before having a tool to be able to do this effectively and efficiently.
So what other project and work management functionality are your customers finding handy too? For installers out there, sometimes you don't know what someone who's using a tool day in and day out is going to think is their favorite thing. It might be something you forgot you even included in the tool, but it's like they're,
Yeah.
this is just like super important to them. I'm just curious, like if there's any other like functions you want to mention that are pretty cool.
We talk about the very specific problem we were talking about gathering the right photos. One thing we added last year was this idea that every time there's a question that says, or a prompt to take photos, we allow there to be an example photo so they can see exactly what kind of photo they need to take. So it says taking a photo of a wiring is, hey, we want the wiring to look like this, capture the whole box, not just part of it. So that again helps with gathering those right photos the first time. But then outside of that, one thing is really important is really streamlining the communication between the field and the office. So we added in-app messaging features into our app last year. So that really allows people in the field and office staff to communicate in real time, text messaging. So you think about it like an iMessage or a text messaging built right into our app. So that's been great for not just getting that real-time communication happening and solving problems on the fly, but also then there's a recording, of a history of that thread attached to that project. I think a second big area is integrations. I think we talked about integrations with the finance companies, but SiteCapture solves a specific problem for the solar industry. We're not a technology that allows you to run every part of your business. But customers are always looking to take advantage of SiteCapture combined with all the other technologies they use. So for us, it's always been about integrations, making sure we integrate with as many things as possible. So SiteCapture supports integrations into thousands of cloud apps through Zapier, which is a platform for connecting apps together. And then we have native integrations with things like Salesforce and a number of other platforms. And then we also have a full-featured API, which is a way that allows developers to build custom integrations between platforms. So our larger customers can build integrations of SiteCapture into the other stuff in any way they see fit that best serves their business.
I really do like the idea of the example of not just, hey, take a photo of this, but here's really the type of photo you're looking to take, especially for, getting newer workers up to speed, or, training is always an issue in solar. So that's a great little handy feature. How much is SiteCapture using AI right now? And how much more, can we expect you to incorporate AI into the future?
Our platform is really focused a lot, as we mentioned, on the photo taking and gathering those photos and having a place to review those photos. And one of the things we'd love to do with AI is help automate that. And that's actually what we're working on right now. So we have built some initial versions of some features that really help automate that photo review process. Can't really go into too much detail yet, so maybe I'm, spewing hype as well. But I think it's really exciting. We've shared this with customers. They see incredible ways to kind of gain more efficiencies on the back end of the process. It's pretty crazy what these AI platforms can do, and I think they can really drive things. And I think we're lucky that we can integrate AI kind of seamlessly into the workflows where our customers work today. So it's not going out and using a different tool. It's the things they do today. They're getting AI to assist with those and shortening timeframes, reducing a lot of manual work and getting things done faster.
Yeah, so maybe the next evolution of, here's the example photo, take your photo of the wiring. Now maybe the AI compares and says, okay, this wasn't quite right, or like that review process is not up to the human to decide, did I do it right or not?
Yeah, exactly. Or just having assistant to check whether it was done right, or be able to flag the ones that seem like they may not be compliant or may not be the right photos, or may not satisfy some sort of requirements, and just really make that less manual than it is today.
So, I mean, I feel like you guys have, I don't know, really honed in on what you do best. Is there anything else to note about SiteCapture, and maybe even anything new that's next?
What's happening in solar is there's kind of this great wave of collaboration happening. And I think that's what we're always looking for, is ways to partner to help solve industry challenges. We do our piece of the puzzle, other people are. How can we all work together to move everything forward? So I think what I really hope to do this year and expect to be doing is spending a lot of time working with others to help continue to drive the industry forward for the benefits of everybody who's involved.
That is well said, and I can't think of a better note to end on there. So, Kamal, I want to thank you for taking the time to stop by and make the pitch today.
Chris, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.